boy's scream cut through traffic noise half a second before Kendra saw the car. Black sedan. Tinted windows. Accelerating when it should have been braking. The child, maybe 6 years old, school uniform, Power Rangers backpack, had chased a soccer ball into the street. His small body was frozen in the headlights, mouth open in terror, legs refusing to move. Kendra didn't decide to run. Her body just moved. She'd been walking back from the convenience store, iced coffee in one hand, phone in the other, mind on the lesson plans she needed to finish before Monday. Seoul traffic was chaotic but predictable. Until it wasn't. Her coffee hit the pavement. Her phone clattered after it. She launched herself off the curb, legs pumping, heart slamming against her ribs. The sedan's engine roared. The boy stood paralyzed. Time stretched like taffy. She reached him with inches to spare. Her hands grabbed his shoulders and she threw them both sideways, twisting so her body would take the impact. They hit the asphalt together. She felt the sedan's bumper clip her leg, felt something snap, felt her head bounce off concrete, then felt nothing. The world came back in pieces. Pain first, sharp and bright in her leg, dull and throbbing in her skull. Then sound, shouting in Korean, running footsteps, car doors slamming. Then sensation, small hands clutching her shirt, a child's voice saying, "Nuna, Nuna," over and over, panicked and crying. She forced her eyes open. The boy was sitting beside her, tears streaming down his face, unhurt. His soccer ball sat a few feet away. The black sedan was gone. "You're okay," she managed in broken Korean. Her tongue felt thick. "You're not hurt." He shook his head violently, still crying. "Good. That's good." The sky above was too bright. Everything hurt. She tried to sit up and the world tilted. Then there were men. Lots of men. Dark suits. Earpieces. Moving with military precision. One knelt beside her. Phone already at his ear speaking rapid Korean she couldn't follow. Another scooped up the boy, checking him for injuries with professional efficiency. Car pulled up. Not the sedan that had nearly killed them. This one was sleek, expensive, black as midnight. The back door opened and a man stepped out. Kendra's pain-fogged brain registered details in flashes. Tall, sharp suit that probably cost more than her monthly salary. Face like it had been carved from stone, all angles and hard lines. Eyes that could freeze fire. He moved like violence in a well-tailored package. He looked at the boy first. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in those cold eyes. Relief, maybe, or the closest thing to it a man like that could feel. Then he looked at her. She was sprawling on Seoul asphalt, leg bent wrong, blood in her hair, probably looking like she'd been hit by a car because she had been hit by a car. His gaze swept over her once, clinical and assessing, then settled on her face. "You threw yourself in front of a moving vehicle." His English was perfect, barely accented. His tone was flat. For a stranger's child. It wasn't a question. She didn't answer anyway. Talking seemed like too much work. He turned to one of his men, spoke in clipped Korean. Then back to her. "My name is Kang Doyan. That boy is my son. You saved his life." "He's 6, she heard herself say. Her voice sounded far away. "Of course I did." Something crossed his face. Not quite surprise. More like he'd just seen something unexpected and didn't know what to do with it. "The car that hit you was deliberate." He crouched beside her. This powerful man in his expensive suit, getting blood on his knees without seeming to notice. "They were trying to kill him. You interfered. Which means they saw you. Which means you're in danger." Her brain struggled to process this. What? Ambulances ask questions. Hospitals involve police. Police mean reports, witnesses, records. His eyes were chips of black ice. "The people who tried to kill my son will look for those records. Find you. Finish what they started because you saw too much." "I didn't see anything." "Except I did." Her mind whispered. Tinted windows. License plate. The way the sedan accelerated instead of stopping. "You saw enough." Doyen stood. "My men will take you to a private doctor." Someone who won't report this. You'll recover somewhere safe. Under my protection. I don't need. She tried to sit up again. Her legs screamed. The world went spotty. You're going into shock. Doyen's voice came from far away. And you don't get a choice. You saved what matters most to me. Now I'm saving you. She felt herself being lifted. Strong arms. The boy's voice again. Crying. Saying something she didn't understand. The smooth leather of a car interior. The door closing with an expensive click. Doyen slid in beside her. The boy climbed into his lap, still crying, still reaching for her with one small hand. Juno wants to thank you, Doyen said quietly. He doesn't speak English. She looked at the child, at his tear-stained face and his father's eyes looking back at her, at the way he clutched Doyen's shirt with one hand and reached for her with the other, building a bridge between them. Tell him he's welcome, she whispered. Tell him to be more careful. Doyen spoke to his son in Korean, voice softer than she'd heard it. Juno nodded, wiped his eyes, said something back. He says you're a superhero, like in his cartoons. Doyen's expression was still stone, but his hand smoothed his son's hair with infinite gentleness. He says he wants you to stay so you can keep saving people. Kendra's vision was darkening at the edges. I'm just a teacher. You're more than that. Doyen's voice followed her down into darkness. And I'm going to make sure you survive long enough to understand why that matters. The car moved. Seoul blurred past the windows. And Kendra Phillips, second-year ESL teacher from Detroit, slipped unconscious with no idea her life had just been split into before and after. She woke up in a bedroom that belonged in a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul Tower. White sheets with a thread count that probably had 4 digits. Modern furniture that looked like art installations. Soft lighting that didn't hurt her eyes. Medical equipment beeping quietly beside the bed. Her leg was in a cast. Her head was bandaged. And 4 drip was taped to her arm. And a man in a white coat was checking her vitals with the bored efficiency of someone who'd done this 10,000 times. You're awake. He said it in English, barely looking up. Good. Concussion. Fractured tibia. Severe contusions. You'll live. Don't try to walk for 2 weeks. Where? Kang's private residence. I'm Dr. Han. You're my patient until you're not. He made a note on his tablet. Someone will bring food. Eat it. Someone will bring medication. Take it. Don't be stupid. He left before she could ask anything else. She sat there, alone, trying to piece together what had happened. The boy, the car, Kang Doyen with his ice eyes and his talk of danger, being carried away like she weighed nothing. The door opened. Not Dr. Han this time. Juno stood in the doorway, still in his school uniform, now clutching a stuffed tiger instead of his father's shirt. He stared at her with enormous eyes. Hey, she said softly. He didn't move, didn't speak, just looked at her like she might disappear. Come here. She patted the bed beside her, moving carefully. It's okay. He crossed the room in a rush, climbed onto the bed with the careful movements of a child who'd been told not to jostle the injured lady. He sat beside her and placed the stuffed tiger in her lap. For me? She asked. He nodded solemnly. Thank you. She touched the tiger's ear. What's his name? Juno said something in Korean. She had no idea what it meant. They sat together in comfortable silence. He was small and warm against her side. This little boy who'd almost died, who she'd saved without thinking. His breathing was steady. His presence was oddly calming. You scared me today, she said quietly. Running into the street like that. He couldn't understand her words, but he seemed to understand her tone. He looked up at her and said something soft in Korean. An apology, maybe. It's okay. She touched his hair gently. You're safe now. The door opened again. Doyen filled the doorway, all sharp angles and controlled power. He looked at his son sitting beside her, at the tiger in her lap, at the way Juno had tucked himself against her like he belonged there. Juno. One word. Not harsh but firm. The boy slid off the bed immediately, head down. He said something to his father, voice small. Doyen responded in Korean, tone gentler now. Juno nodded, cast one more look at Kendra, then left. They were alone. Doyen moved to the window, hands in his pockets, silhouette sharp against Seoul's lights. My son doesn't trust easily. His mother died when he was 3. Car accident. Since then he's been... He paused. Careful around people, especially strangers. He's been through trauma, Kendra said. That changes kids. You're a teacher, still not looking at her. You understand children. I understand loss. She thought of her younger brothers, of raising them after their mom died, of becoming a parent at 19 when she should have been in college. And I understand scared kids. Doyen turned. The car that hit you today was sent by a rival organization. They want what I have. They want to hurt what I love. My business, my territory, my son. His expression was granite. You interfered with an assassination attempt. You're a witness, which makes you a liability to them and a responsibility to me. I didn't ask to be your responsibility. You didn't ask. You acted. He crossed the room, pulled up a chair, sat like a king on a throne. That's what makes you different. Most people would have looked away, convinced themselves it wasn't their problem. You ran toward danger instead. Any decent person would have. No, the word was sharp. They wouldn't. I've lived in this world long enough to know. Most people protect themselves first. You protected a stranger's child. His eyes were chips of obsidian. I need to know why. She met his gaze. Because I've stood at a kid's funeral before. Because I've felt what it's like to fail someone small who counted on you. Because I couldn't live with myself if I'd watched him die when I could have done something. Her voice cracked. Because he's 6 years old and he deserves to grow up. Silence stretched between them. Your leg will heal in 6 weeks, Doyen said finally. Your concussion 2 weeks. During that time you'll stay here. Under guard. Under my protection. When you're healed, we'll discuss your options. I have a job, an apartment, a life. Your school has been notified you're on medical leave. Your rent is being paid. Your life is on pause. He stood. I don't make the rules of my world. I just enforce them. And the rule is this: you're connected to me now whether you want to be or not. That connection keeps you alive or gets you killed. I prefer the first option. You're saying I'm a prisoner. I'm saying you're protected. He moved toward the door. Learn the difference. And if I want to leave? He paused, hand on the doorframe. Then you die. Probably within 48 hours. Possibly less. He looked back at her. Your choice. Stay and live. Leave and don't. He closed the door behind him. She sat in the expensive bedroom with the stuffed tiger in her lap and her broken leg in a cast and her life in pieces around her. Through the window, Seoul glittered like scattered diamonds. She'd saved a child's life this morning. Now she had to figure out how to save her own. If you're new here and this story has you hooked, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you're the first to know when more mind-blowing stories drop. Drop a comment and tell me what country you're watching from and what time it is where you are right now. Let's see how global our community is. 2 weeks felt like 2 years. The penthouse was a beautiful prison. Everything she needed appeared like magic. Clothes in her size, American snacks, books in English, even her favorite coffee creamer. Dr. Han visited daily, checking her healing with his perpetual scowl. Guards were everywhere. Silent men in dark suits who watched her like she might explode. But Juno made it bearable. The boy appeared every afternoon after school, still in his uniform, always carrying something. A drawing he'd made. A toy he wanted to share. Once, a flower he'd picked from somewhere in this concrete jungle. They couldn't really talk. Her Korean was survival-level basics. His English was non-existent. But they communicated anyway. She taught him to play tic-tac-toe. He taught her to fold paper cranes. They watched cartoons together, him explaining plots in animated Korean while she nodded like she understood. They built towers with blocks and knocked them down over and over, laughing at the crash. Your son is attached to her. Dr. Han said it one afternoon while checking Kendra's leg. Doyen stood by the window where he seemed to live lately. Very attached. I know, Doyen said quietly. When she leaves. If she leaves. Kendra's head snapped up. What does that mean? Doyen didn't turn around. Dr. Han packed his equipment with pointed efficiency and left them alone. You've been here 17 days, Doyen said to the window. Juno smiles now. He didn't smile before. He waits by the door every afternoon, counting down until school ends so he can see you. He talks about you at dinner. He draws pictures of you. He asked me yesterday if you could stay forever. Kendra's chest tightened. That's not fair to him. Getting attached when I'm leaving. Who says you're leaving? Now he turned, and his expression was complicated. Your leg has 3 more weeks. In that time, my men will have eliminated the immediate threat. But there will always be another threat. Another rival. Another attempt. This world doesn't have clean exits. So what, I just stay here forever? Become part of your... what household staff? You become family. He said it simply, like it was obvious. You stay because Juno needs you. Because he's lost too much already. Because you're the first person besides me he's trusted in 4 years. I'm not his mother. No. But you're something. Doyen moved closer. I've watched you with him. The way you let him sit with you. The way you listen when he talks even though you don't understand the words. The way you see him as a child instead of a mafia boss's son. His voice dropped. You treat him like he's normal. No one else does that. He is normal. He's 6. Exactly. Doyen sat on the edge of the bed, and Kendra saw the exhaustion in his face for the first time. Everyone else sees my air, my weakness, my leverage. You see a boy who likes cartoons and needs attention. He rubbed his face. Do you know what that's worth to me? She didn't answer. My son's happiness, Doyen continued, is the only thing I value more than my own life. And you gave it back to him twice. Once when you saved him from that car. Once when you stayed and let him love you. I didn't ask him to love me. Love doesn't ask permission. His eyes met hers. It just happens. And now it's happened. He loves you. Which means I owe you everything. You don't owe me your son's emotions. I owe you his life. Doyen leaned forward. Let me pay that debt. Stay. Not as a prisoner. As part of this family. Teach him. Care for him. Be what he needs. I'll pay you more than any school. Give you freedom within reason. Protect you from everything I can. And when he grows up, when he doesn't need me anymore, then you decide. Stay or go. But give him now. Give him these years when he's small and needs someone who sees him. Doyen's jaw tightened. I'm not good at this. Being a father. I keep him alive, but I don't know how to make him happy. You do. So stay and do what I can't. Kendra looked at this powerful, dangerous man who was begging her to love his child. You're asking me to give up my whole life. I'm asking you to start a new one. He stood. Think about it. You have 3 weeks before your leg heals. Decide what matters more. The life you had or the life you could have. He left her with that weight. That night, Juno had a nightmare. She heard him screaming from down the hall. Heard Doyen's voice trying to calm him. Heard the boy's terror echoing through expensive walls. She grabbed her crutches and made her way to his room. Doyen was sitting on Juno's bed, holding him, speaking soft Korean that wasn't working. Juno was crying, gasping, caught in whatever horror his mind had created. Let me, Kendra said from the doorway. Doyen looked at her, looked at his son, stood aside. She sat on the bed, pulled Juno into her arms. He clutched at her immediately, small body shaking, face pressed into her shoulder. Hey, baby, hey. She rocked him gently. You're okay. I'm here. You're safe. He couldn't understand her words, but he understood her voice, her presence, her arms around him that promised safety. Slowly his crying stopped. His breathing evened. His grip on her shirt relaxed. She hummed something her mama used to hum when Kendra was small and scared. Some old gospel melody she barely remembered. Juno went still, listening. When she looked up, Doyen was watching them with an expression she couldn't name. Stay, he said quietly. Please. She looked at the boy in her arms, at the way he trusted her completely, at the way he'd curled into her like she was home. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." 6 weeks in, Kendra's life had transformed. Her leg was healed. She moved through the penthouse freely now, no longer a patient but not quite. She didn't know what. Guest? Employee? Juno's surrogate mother? Doyen's? She didn't let herself finish that thought. Juno started calling her Kendra teacher, his small voice mangling the syllables in a way that made her chest ache. Every morning he showed her his homework. Every afternoon they did lessons, English practice that turned into games, reading sessions that turned into storytelling, math problems that turned into cooking measurements when they baked together. The guards stopped watching her like a threat. They nodded when she passed. One, a young guy named Miho, even taught her basic Korean phrases so she could communicate better with Juno. Dr. Han stopped scowling at her. Mostly. And Doyen was complicated. He worked constantly, disappearing into his office for hours with men who looked like violence in suits. But every evening he joined them for dinner. Watched Juno tell Kendra about his day in excited Korean that she barely followed. Watched her respond in English that Juno didn't understand. Watched them communicate anyway, through gestures and laughter and the strange language of people who cared about each other. "You're good for him," Doyen said one night after Juno was asleep. They sat in the living room, the city sprawling below them, silence comfortable between them. "He's different now. He just needed attention. He needed love." Doyen's voice was quiet. "I didn't know how to give him that. I kept him safe, but safe isn't the same as happy. You love him. That's what matters. I love him enough to kill for him, die for him, burn the world down if it keeps him alive." Doyen turned to look at her. "But I don't love him enough to make him laugh. You do that. You make him laugh like he's allowed to be a child instead of a target." Something in his voice made her meet his eyes. What she saw there stole her breath. Not just gratitude, not just respect. Something deeper, dangerous. "Doyen, I know." He stood abruptly. "I know it's inappropriate. I know you're here for Juno, not me. I know I have no right." He moved to the window, shoulders tense. "But I'm not good at lying. Not to myself. And the truth is I look forward to dinner every night because you'll be there. I listen for your voice in the hallways. I find excuses to be in whatever room you're in. And The explosion shattered the windows. Glass erupted inward. Kendra hit the floor on instinct, arms over her head. Alarms shrieked. Men were shouting. Gunfire echoed from somewhere below. Doyen was on her in seconds, covering her body with his, shielding her from debris. "Stay down. Juno. Miho has him. Safe room. Protocol." His weight lifted. He was already moving, gun appearing from somewhere, all business. "Stay here. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me." "What's happening?" "They're here." His face was carved from ice. "The people who want Juno dead. They found us." He was gone before she could respond, disappearing into chaos with the fluid grace of someone who'd done this before. She should have stayed. Should have locked the door. Should have hidden like she was told. Instead, she grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and ran toward Juno's room. The hallway was chaos. Men fighting. Bodies on the floor. Blood on expensive carpet. She pressed herself against the wall, heart hammering, moving toward the safe room where Juno would be. A man in black stepped out of a doorway. Not one of Doyen's. Wrong suit. Wrong face. Gun raised. She swung the fire extinguisher, connected with his skull with a sickening crack. He dropped. She stood over him, shaking, extinguisher still raised, adrenaline screaming through her veins. "Not bad." Miho appeared beside her, gun trained down the hallway. "But you're supposed to be hiding. Is Juno safe?" "Safe room. Locked. No one's getting through that door." He glanced at her. "But you should be with him. Come on." They moved through the war zone together. Miho handled the 3 men they encountered with brutal efficiency. Kendra tried not to look at the bodies. The safe room was solid steel. Miho punched in a code. The door opened. Juno was inside, huddled in the corner, crying silently. When he saw Kendra, he ran to her. She caught him, held him, walked into the safe room. Miho sealed them inside. "Stay here," he said. "Don't open this door unless boss gives the all-clear himself. Code word is Eagle. Anyone else says anything different, they're not boss, don't open. Understood." Understood. He left. The door sealed with a heavy click. Kendra sat on the floor, Juno in her arms, listening to gunfire through steel walls. The boy was shaking, crying, traumatized. "Hey!" She tilted his face up. "Look at me. You're safe. I'm here. Your daddy is handling this. We're going to be okay." He said something in Korean. She didn't need translation to know what he meant. "I'm scared too," she admitted. "But we're together. That makes us brave." They sat in the darkness, holding each other, waiting. It felt like hours before the knock came. 3 sharp raps. Then Doyen's voice. "Eagle, it's over. Open the door." She opened it. Doyen stood there covered in blood. Not his blood, she realized with numb clarity. Someone else's. He looked like a demon from hell, all hard edges and cold fury. Then he saw them and his expression cracked. He dropped to his knees. Juno launched himself at his father. Doyen caught him, held him, pressed his face into his son's hair. "I'm sorry," Doyen said, voice breaking. "I'm sorry. I should have protected you better. I should have." "You did protect him." Kendra's voice was steady even though her hands weren't. "You built a safe room. You trained your men. You gave him me. He's alive because of you." Doyen looked up at her with something raw in his eyes. "They came for him again. And they failed. Again. They'll keep coming. Then you'll keep stopping them." She moved closer. "That's what you do. You protect what's yours. And what about you?" His voice dropped. "Are you mine to protect now?" The question hung in the air between them, loaded with everything they hadn't said. Before she could answer, Juno spoke. Soft Korean words she didn't understand. Doyen's expression changed. "He says you're his family now. He says you can't leave because families stay together." Kendra looked at the boy in his father's arms, at the hope in his small face, at the vulnerability in Doyen's eyes that he was trying so hard to hide. "Then I guess I'm staying," she whispered. Doyen stood, Juno still in his arms. He stepped close to her, close enough that she could see the blood splatter on his collar, the exhaustion in his face, the desperate need in his eyes. "I'll end this," he said quietly. "However long it takes. Whatever I have to do. I'll make sure you're both safe. I promise." "I know," she said, and she realized she meant it. She trusted this dangerous man with the expensive suits and the violent world, because he loved his son with everything he had. And somehow, in 6 weeks, he'd started to love her too. 3 months later, Seoul no longer felt foreign. Kendra walked through Gangnam like she belonged there, Juno's hand in hers, bodyguards trailing at a discreet distance. The threat was gone. Doyen had made sure of that with the kind of brutal efficiency she tried not to think about too hard. But the precautions remained. She'd made peace with that, with the guards, with the danger, with the strange life she'd fallen into when she'd saved a boy in traffic. "Kendra teacher, ice cream." Juno tugged her toward a street vendor, his Korean rapid and excited. "English," she reminded him gently. "Ice cream, please." He grinned up at her, knowing that smile got him everything. "1 scoop, and you ask in a full sentence. May I please have ice cream, Kendra teacher?" Much better. They got ice cream, sat on a bench in the park. Juno chattered about school in his improving English while she corrected his grammar and tried not to think about how normal this felt. Her phone buzzed. A text from Doyen. "Dinner at 7. I'm cooking. Don't be late." She smiled. Doyen's cooking was terrible, but he tried. That was what mattered. "Daddy is making dinner," she told Juno. He made a face. "Daddy's cooking is bad? Your English is improving," she laughed. "And yes it is." They walked home as the sun set, painting Seoul in gold. Home. When had she started thinking of the penthouse as home? When had this dangerous life become her normal? Maybe the day Juno had his first parent-teacher conference and introduced her as his Kendra teacher who lives with us and makes daddy happy. Maybe the day Doyen had asked her to teach him English, then spent the entire lesson just watching her talk. Maybe the day she'd realized she was in love with a man who killed people for a living but cried when his son had nightmares. The penthouse smelled like burning when they arrived. "I told you to wait for me," she called, dropping her bag and heading for the kitchen. Doyen stood at the stove, scowling at a pan of something that might have been chicken once. Smoke rose from the edges. "It's fine," he said. "I followed the recipe." The smoke alarm is literally screaming. That's just enthusiasm. But he stepped back, let her take over, watched her salvage dinner with the kind of focused attention that made her skin warm. "You're staring," she said without looking at him. "I'm learning. You're being distracting." "That too." He moved closer, wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, chin resting on her shoulder. "Juno had a good day? Ice cream and homework." "The usual." She leaned back into him, let herself enjoy the solid warmth of him. "You?" 3 meetings. 2 contract negotiations. 1 idiot who thought he could short me. His voice was casual, like he was discussing weather instead of violence. "The usual. I don't want to know, do I?" "Probably not." They stood together in comfortable silence, cooking dinner, while Juno played in the living room and Seoul glittered outside the windows. "I got you something," Doyen said after a while. "Your cooking isn't a gift. It's a punishment." "Not the cooking." He pulled back, produced a small box from his pocket. "This." She turned to look at him, at the box, at his face which was carefully neutral. "Doyen, it's not what you think." He opened it. Inside was a key. "Your apartment building. I bought it. This is the master key. You own it now, free and clear. So you always have somewhere to go if you need to leave." Her throat tightened. "Why would you?" "Because I don't want you to stay because you're trapped." His eyes met hers. "I want you to stay because you choose to, every day. And you can't choose if you don't have options." She looked at this man who'd given her an escape route from him. This complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man who loved his son enough to let someone else help raise him. Who'd bought her freedom so she could choose to give it up. "You're insane," she whispered. "Probably." He smiled slightly. "Is it working?" She kissed him. Right there in the kitchen with dinner burning and his son in the next room and smoke alarms still shrieking. Kissed him like he was air and she'd been drowning. When they pulled apart, he was breathing hard. "So that's a yes to staying?" "That's a yes to everything." She touched his face. "To staying. To this life. To you and Juno. To whatever comes next. Even when it's dangerous? Especially then." She smiled. "Someone has to make sure you both survive your own chaos." "Daddy." Kendra teacher. "Dinner is smoking." Juno's voice carried from the living room. They looked at the stove. The chicken was definitely beyond saving now. "Pizza?" Doyen suggested. "Pizza," she agreed. They ordered delivery. Ate on the couch with Juno between them. Watched a movie in mixed Korean and English that none of them really followed. Fell asleep together in a pile of limbs and comfort and the strange family they'd become. Kendra woke up at midnight to find Doyen watching her. "You're doing it again," she mumbled. "The staring thing." "I'm memorizing." His voice was quiet in the darkness. "Every moment of this. Every detail. Because 4 months ago, I was alone with a traumatized son in a beautiful prison. And now I have this. You. Him. A family." His hand found hers. "I want to remember what it feels like to be happy, in case it doesn't last." "It'll last." She squeezed his hand. "We'll make it last." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." She smiled in the darkness. "I saved your son's life in traffic. I survived your world. I fell in love with both of you. I'm not going anywhere. You're either very brave or very stupid. Can't it be both?" He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was rusty, like he didn't use it often. She wanted to collect it, keep it, make it happen more. "Both," he agreed. "Definitely both." They lay there in the Seoul night, holding hands, while Juno slept between them and the city breathed outside. Three people who shouldn't have fit together but did. A mafia boss, a teacher from Detroit, a 6-year-old boy who just wanted a family. It wasn't the life Kendra had planned. Wasn't the safe, predictable path she'd been walking. But it was hers. Chaotic and dangerous and absolutely, completely hers. And when morning came, she'd wake up and choose it all over again. Choose the guards and the danger and the complicated man and the beautiful boy and the life she'd built from a split-second decision in traffic. She'd thrown herself in front of a car to save a stranger's child. Ended up saving herself instead. Funny how that worked. Outside, Seoul woke up to another day. Inside, a family slept safe for now together. And that was enough. If the story moved you, smash that like button. Share it with someone who believes love shows up in unexpected places. And drop a comment. Would you have stayed in Kendra's shoes? Or would you have taken that key and run? Tell me your thoughts. I read every single one. Until next time, remember, sometimes the life you're meant to live is the one you never saw coming.